The perfume lingering on his collar might end my marriage, and it is barely there at all. Just a whisper of florals mixed with the steam from our shower. I stand in the bathroom doorway, arms crossed, watching my husband Chris strip off his work shirt like it is any other Thursday night. He does not see me yet. He is humming something under his breath, relaxed, his phone face down on the counter like always. Through the frosted glass, I can make out his silhouette under the water, and all I can think about is how that scent does not belong here. It does not belong on him. If you only saw this scene, you would say it is simple, he cheated on me. The evidence is invisible but undeniable, clinging to fabric, mixing with bathroom moisture, turning our small space into a confession booth he does not even know he entered. You are already here hearing my side, so subscribe and stay to hear his too, but for you to understand how I ended up here, staring at proof I never wanted to find, I need to go back a little. Back to when Chris and I still believed in the promises we made, before distance became our third roommate, and before another woman's perfume became the thing I could not unsee or unsmell. I met Chris on a February afternoon at a bookstore downtown, the kind with creaky floors and the smell of old paper everywhere. He was blocking the poetry section, reading something by Pablo Neruda out loud to himself, badly in broken Spanish. I laughed. He looked up, embarrassed, then grinned and asked if I spoke Spanish. I said no, but I could tell he was butchering it. That made him laugh too. We ended up talking for 2 hours in the cafe attached to the shop, and by the time I left, I had his number and a strange certainty that this man would matter. Our first year together felt like proof that soulmates existed. We went camping in the mountains that summer, got caught in a rainstorm, and ended up kissing under a tree while thunder rolled overhead. He proposed on a beach in Maine, kneeling in the sand with a ring he had saved 8 months to buy. I said yes before he even finished the question. We got married in a tiny chapel surrounded by family and friends, and I swore I had never seen anyone look at me the way Chris did when I walked down that aisle. His eyes were wet. Mine were too. We built a life piece by piece. A small apartment first, then a house with a backyard and a porch swing. 2 kids, Lily and Nathan, born 3 years apart. Chris climbed the ladder at his firm, became a project manager, started traveling for work. I stayed home those first years, then went back part-time as a graphic designer when Nathan started school. We had routines. Friday pizza nights. Sunday morning pancakes. Bedtime stories. Bills. Arguments about whose turn it was to take out the trash. Normal stuff, the kind of normal that feels boring when you have it and sacred when you lose it. For a long time, I believed in us completely. I believed Chris when he said he loved me. I believed in the future we were building. I believed that even when things got hard, we would choose each other. And maybe that was my first mistake, believing so much that I stopped paying attention to the signs that something was shifting, slowly, like tectonic plates under our feet. Until one day the ground just was not solid anymore. The first crack I can name happened around March of last year. Chris started putting his phone face down on every surface. Dinner table, nightstand, kitchen counter, always screen side down. When I asked why, he shrugged and said it was a habit he picked up at work to avoid distractions during meetings. It sounded reasonable. I let it go. Then came the late nights. Chris had always worked hard, but suddenly he was staying at the office until 9, 10, sometimes 11 at night. When I called, he sounded annoyed, like I was checking up on him. "Jenna, I am in the middle of a presentation," he would say, even though I could hear silence in the background. No keyboard sounds, no voices. Just him and the hum of fluorescent lights. He started coming home smelling like takeout and energy drinks, his tie loosened, his eyes glazed. When I tried to ask about his day, he gave one-word answers. Fine, busy, tired. There was a name that kept coming up. Vanessa. A new colleague on his team. He mentioned her casually at first. Vanessa had a great idea for the client pitch. Vanessa was handling the logistics for the trip to Boston. Vanessa this, Vanessa that. I tried not to be that wife, the one who hears a female name and immediately panics. But something about the way he said it, light and careful, like he was trying to make it sound unimportant, made my stomach tighten. I brought it up one night after the kids were asleep. We were sitting on the couch, him scrolling through his phone, me folding laundry. I said, "You talk about Vanessa a lot." He did not even look up. She is on my team, Jenna. Of course I talk about her. I pressed. It just feels like you mention her more than anyone else. He sighed, put his phone down, and gave me this look, patient, condescending, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. You are overreacting, he said. Vanessa is a coworker. That is all. If I cannot talk about work without you getting jealous, then we have a bigger problem. I felt my face flush. I dropped it. But that word, overreacting, stuck in my chest like a splinter. Things escalated in small ways. He started dressing better for work. New shirts, a cologne I had not bought him. He joined a gym and went 3 times a week, something he had never done before. When I complimented the effort, he just shrugged and said he wanted to feel healthier. He stopped reaching for me at night. We used to fall asleep tangled together, his arm around my waist, my head on his chest. Now he turned away, facing the wall, and when I tried to curl into him, he said he was too hot, too tired, too stressed. Our bedroom became 2 separate islands. Back then, I thought that word overreacting was just annoying. I did not know it would become the weapon he used every single time I got close to the truth. I became someone I did not recognize. I started checking his phone when he was in the shower, my hands shaking as I scrolled through messages. Most of them were boring. Work emails. Text to his brother about football. Group chats with old college friends. But there were gaps. Deleted conversations. Threads that started mid-sentence like the beginning had been erased. Once, I saw a text from Vanessa that just said tonight was fun, thanks for listening. I waited for context. There was none. When I asked Chris about it later, casually, over breakfast, he said they had grabbed coffee after work to debrief a stressful client call. He said it like it was nothing. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe I was going insane. I started lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, running through every interaction we had that week, looking for inconsistencies. He said he was working late on a Tuesday. But when I drove by his office, his car was not in the lot. He said he had lunch with a client on Thursday. But the credit card statement showed a charge at a cafe 20 miles away. Nowhere near his office. He said he was too tired for sex, but I caught him smiling at his phone at 2 in the morning, the blue light washing over his face in the dark. I lost weight. Not on purpose. I just forgot to eat. My friend Sarah noticed and asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was trying a new diet. I snapped at the kids over nothing. Lily spilled juice on the carpet, and I yelled so loud she cried. I apologized, held her, felt like a monster. Nathan asked why Daddy was never home for dinner anymore, and I did not know what to say, so I just said he was busy with work and changed the subject. I became obsessed with finding proof. I checked his email. I went through his coat pockets. I looked at his location history on Google Maps and saw places I did not recognize. A hotel bar downtown, a park on the east side, a restaurant we had never been to together. I told myself I was protecting myself, protecting my family, but really I was just drowning. Every time I found something that could be explained away, I felt relief and rage in equal measure. Relief that I was wrong. Rage that I could not prove I was right. One afternoon, I followed him. I am not proud of it, but I did. He said he was meeting a client for coffee at 3. I left the kids with my mom and drove to the cafe he mentioned. I sat in my car across the street, sunglasses on, feeling ridiculous and desperate. And there he was, alone. Reading a newspaper. Drinking black coffee. No client. No Vanessa. Just him. I sat there for 40 minutes, waiting for someone to show up, but no one did. When he finally left, I drove home, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white, and I did not know whether to feel relieved or more confused than ever. The worst part was not the suspicion. It was the gaslighting. Every time I brought up something that felt off, Chris flipped it. You are imagining things. You are stressed. You are looking for problems because you are bored. He made me feel crazy. And maybe I was. Maybe I was seeing smoke where there was no fire, or maybe the fire was just hidden, waiting for the right gust of wind to reveal itself. I thought the worst thing that could happen was discovering nothing. I was wrong. The worst was still waiting in a folded piece of paper I had not touched yet. The night it all came apart started ordinary. Chris came home around 7:30, earlier than usual, and I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we were turning a corner. Maybe I had been wrong all along. He played with Nathan in the living room, helped Lily with her math homework, kissed me on the forehead when I handed him a beer. It almost felt like old times. After the kids went to bed, I went upstairs to grab his jacket from the closet to hang it up properly. That is when I felt it, something in the inside pocket. A receipt. I pulled it out without thinking, and my hands went cold. It was from a boutique hotel downtown. 2 rooms, checked in on a Friday 3 weeks ago. The same Friday, he said he was traveling to Philadelphia for a conference. The charge was for 1 night. $268. My mind raced. 2 rooms. Why 2 rooms? Unless one was for a colleague. Unless one was for Vanessa. I stood there in the closet, staring at that receipt, and everything I had buried for months came rushing up like a wave. All the late nights. All the deleted texts. All the times he said I was overreacting. This was proof. This was real. This was not in my head. I did not confront him right away. I folded the receipt, put it in my pocket, and went back downstairs. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the couch, watching him scroll through his phone, oblivious. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the receipt in his face and demand answers. But I also wanted to be sure. I wanted to catch him in a lie so obvious he could not talk his way out of it. Around 11, he said he was going to take a shower. I followed him upstairs, the receipt burning a hole in my pocket. I stood in the bathroom doorway as he undressed, and that is when I smelled it. Perfume. Not mine. Floral, sweet, expensive. It clung to his collar, faint but unmistakable, mixing with the steam as he turned on the water. My chest tightened. Chris, I said, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. He turned, surprised. Yeah. I stepped closer. You smell like perfume. He frowned like he did not understand. What? I repeated myself. You smell like perfume. And it is not mine. He laughed. Not a guilty laugh. An amused one. Jenna, I was at a work happy hour. It was packed. People were everywhere. Someone probably brushed past me. I pulled the receipt from my pocket and held it up. Then explain this. His face changed. The color drained. He stared at the receipt, then at me, and for the first time in months, he looked caught. That is from the Philadelphia trip, he said quickly. I booked 2 rooms because Vanessa was on the trip and HR requires separate accommodations. I felt my jaw tighten. You said you were traveling alone. He hesitated. Just for a second. But I saw it. I did not think it mattered, he said. It was work, Jenna. That is all. I stepped closer, holding the receipt between us like evidence in a trial. You did not think it mattered that you were sharing a hotel floor with a woman you have been talking about nonstop for 6 months. You did not think it mattered that you have been coming home late, hiding your phone, avoiding me? You did not think any of that mattered. He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. You are twisting this into something it is not. I shook my head no. You are twisting this into something explainable when it is not. I am not stupid, Chris. I know what I am seeing. I know what I am smelling. And I know you are lying to me. The shower was still running, steam filling the room, making everything feel surreal and claustrophobic. He looked at me, and for a moment I thought he might confess. I thought he might finally tell me the truth. But instead, he just said, I do not know what you want me to say, Jenna. That is my side. With everything I lived and everything I found, this is cheating. But he does not tell the story in the same way.
I am lying on the couch in our guest room at 2 a.m, staring at the ceiling, replaying the fight in my head. The receipt is still on the bathroom counter where Jenna left it, damp from the steam, a piece of paper that somehow carries the weight of our entire marriage. She thinks it proves everything. I think it proves nothing except that we stopped talking to each other a long time ago and now we are just 2 people throwing evidence back and forth like weapons. When she held up that receipt, I felt my stomach drop. Not because I was caught doing something unforgivable, but because I knew exactly how it looked. I knew no explanation I gave would land right. I have been living in this gap for months, the gap between what I am actually doing and what Jenna thinks I am doing, and tonight, that gap finally swallowed us whole. Perfume. God. The perfume. She smelled it on me like it was a scarlet letter. Like it was proof I had been rolling around in someone else's bed. The truth is so much more complicated and so much more boring than she wants to believe. But when you are already convinced someone is guilty, every piece of evidence just confirms what you've already decided. That is what happened tonight. Jenna decided months ago that I was cheating, and now she is just collecting proof to match the verdict. If you only listen to her. I am the perfect villain, the distant husband, the liar, the cheater. Let me tell you how it started from my side, and maybe you will see that this story is not as black and white as she wants it to be. Maybe you will see that by the time Vanessa even entered the picture. Jenna and I were already living like roommates who shared a mortgage and nothing else. I fell in love with Jenna in a bookstore on a cold February afternoon. She caught me butchering a Neruda poem in terrible Spanish, lugged at me, and instead of walking away, she stayed. We talked for hours. She was smart, funny, curious about everything. When I proposed 2 years later on that beach in Maine, I meant every word. I wanted to build a life with her. I wanted forever, and for a while, we had it. We had the house, the kids, the routines, Friday nights with pizza, Sunday mornings with pancakes. I worked my way up at the firm, became a project manager, started leading bigger accounts. I was proud of that. I wanted Jenna to be proud too. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being Chris to her and became just Dad, just the guy who brought home the paycheck, just the person who fixed the sink and mowed the lawn. I remember the exact moment I felt it. Lily was 4, Nathan was 1, and I came home excited about a promotion I had just gotten. I walked in the door, ready to celebrate, and Jenna was on the floor covered in baby food, exhausted, barely able to look at me. I told her about the promotion. She said, "That is great, honey," and went back to wiping Nathan's face. No questions, no curiosity, just a polite acknowledgement, like I had told her I bought milk. I stood there holding my briefcase, feeling invisible. It got worse over time. I would come home and try to talk about my day, about the projects I was working on, the people I was managing, the challenges I was facing, and Jenna would nod while scrolling through her phone or chopping vegetables or helping Lily with homework. She was there, but she was not really there. I started to feel like I only mattered when something was broken or a bill needed to be paid. I was useful. I was not loved. I am not blaming her for being a mom. I know those years were hard. I know she was exhausted and touched out and running on no sleep. But I was lonely. I was so lonely I could feel it in my chest like a physical ache. And when I tried to tell her that, when I tried to say, "I miss us, I miss you," she would say she was too tired, or that we would talk later, and later never came. Sex became a chore. Once a month, if I was lucky, and even then it felt mechanical, like she was just checking a box. I stopped initiating because the rejection hurt too much. I stopped reaching for her at night because I got tired of feeling her pull away. We became two people living parallel lives under the same roof, and I did not know how to fix it because every time I tried, she made me feel like I was asking for too much. I did not wake up one morning wanting someone else. I only realized how empty I was when a different person started to pay attention. Vanessa Marie Callahan joined our team in January of last year. She was sharp, confident, good at her job. We worked together on a client pitch, spent hours in conference rooms, going over presentations, bouncing ideas back and forth. It was professional. It was fine. But then one night, after a particularly brutal client meeting, we grabbed drinks with the rest of the team, and when everyone else left, Vanessa stayed. We talked for another 2 hours. Not about work, about life, about her divorce, about my marriage. She asked questions, real questions. Se liste. I had forgotten what that felt like. It started small. Emails that were a little longer than they needed to be. Jokes that were just for the two of us. Lunch meetings that ran late. I told myself it was harmless. She was a colleague, a friend. Nothing more. But I was lying to myself. Andy Caneo Italiano. I knew it every time I smiled when her name popped up on my phone. I knew it every time I dressed a little better for work, because I knew I would see her. I knew it every time I stayed late at the office, not because I had to, but because she was still there too. The first time we touched, really touched, was at a team dinner in March. We were sitting next to each other, and she put her hand on my arm when she laughed at something I said. It lasted maybe 3 seconds. But I felt it for days. I started looking for excuses to be near her, to work on projects together, to travel together. The trip to Philadelphia was my idea. I told Jenna I was going alone because I did not want to explain why Vanessa was coming. I booked 2 rooms because I am not a complete idiot. I knew how it would look if we shared one. But I also knew, deep down, that I wanted something to happen. I wanted the option. I wanted to see if she felt the same way I did. We got dinner the first night. Just the 2 of us. We talked about everything. About her ex-husband, who never appreciated her. About my wife, who barely looked at me anymore. We drank too much wine. We walked back to the hotel, and when we got to her door, she looked at me and said, "Do you want to come in?" I should have said no. I should have gone to my own room, called Jenna, remembered my vows. But I did not. I went in. Nothing happened that night. We just talked. We sat on her bed, fully clothed, and talked until 3 in the morning. But the line was already crossed. The intimacy was already there. The emotional cheating had already happened, even if the physical part had not. The physical part came 2 weeks later. Another work trip. Another hotel. This time, I did not hesitate. This time, when she asked if I wanted to come in, I said yes, and I meant it. We slept together. I will not lie and say, I did not want it. I did. I wanted to feel wanted. I wanted to feel like I mattered to someone. And for a few hours, I did. I told myself it was a one-time thing. I told myself it would never happen again. But it did. 3 more times over the next 2 months. Always on work trips, always in hotels far from home. I compartmentalized it. Where Chris could have Vanessa home, Chris could keep the house running and the kids fed and Jenna happy. I genuinely believed I could keep those 2 worlds separate. I told myself it would never happen again. But the truth is, once you open that door, you cannot pretend the house is still the same. Jenna found was real. I am not going to lie about that. 2 rooms at a boutique hotel in downtown Philadelphia. Vanessa and I stayed there for 1 night during a client meeting. But here is the part Jenna does not want to hear. We actually did have separate rooms. We did not share a bed that night. We had dinner, we talked, we went to our own rooms. The receipt proves we were there together. It does not prove what she thinks it proves. The perfume she smelled on me that night was real too, but it was not what she made it out to be. We had a work happy hour at a bar downtown. It was packed shoulder to shoulder. Loud music. People bumping into each other constantly. Vanessa was there. Yes. And yes, she hugged me when she left. A quick hug. The kind coworkers give each other. Her perfume transferred onto my shirt. That is it. That is the whole story. I did not roll around in her bed. I did not sneak off to some hotel room. I went to a work event, got hugged, and came home. But to Jenna, that scent was a confession. The late nights were real. I was working late. But I was also avoiding home. I will admit that. I was avoiding the coldness, the silence, the feeling that no matter what I did, I would never be enough for Jenna. Some of those nights I was at the office alone, staring at spreadsheets I did not need to finish. Some of those nights I was grabbing a drink with Vanessa, talking about everything except work. Were those nights innocent? No. Were they cheating? I do not know. You tell me. If talking to someone who actually listens to you is cheating, then I guess I am guilty. The deleted texts were because I knew how Jenna would interpret them. Vanessa and I texted about work, about life, about stupid jokes. Nothing explicit, nothing sexual. But I knew if Jenna saw messages like "Tonight was fun, thanks for listening," she would spiral. So I deleted them. Not because they proved I was cheating, but because I did not want to deal with another interrogation, another accusation, another night of being called a liar when I was just trying to survive a marriage that felt like it was suffocating me. Did I cross lines? Yes. I crossed emotional lines. I let someone else in when I should have been fighting harder to let my wife back in. I slept with Vanessa. I am not going to deny that, but I want you to understand something. I did not go looking for an affair. I went looking for connection. I went looking for someone who saw me as more than a paycheck and a handyman. And when I found that, I did not have the strength to walk away. Jenna calls it cheating. I call it the consequence of a marriage that was already broken. She sees the receipts, the perfume, the late nights, and she sees betrayal. I see years of being ignored, dismissed, and made to feel like I did not matter. We are both right. We are both wrong. And I do not know if that makes me the villain or just another person who made terrible choices because I did not know how else to stop hurting. She says, I destroyed our marriage. I say it was already dying, and I just stopped pretending it was not. You decide.
8 months after the fight in the steam-filled bathroom, Jenna and Chris signed divorce papers in a lawyer's office downtown. They sat on opposite sides of a long table, pens in hand, not looking at each other. Lily cried when they told her. Nathan asked if it was his fault. They both said no, but the guilt sat heavy in the spaces between them anyway. Jenna moved into a small apartment on the east side of town with the kids. She went back to work full-time, designing logos and websites for local businesses. She started therapy. She started running in the mornings. She went on 2 dates with a man she met through a friend, but both times she came home feeling empty, like she was just going through motions she did not believe in yet. Some nights she still pulled out the receipt from the hotel, stared at it, and wondered if she had overreacted. Most nights, she knew she had not. Chris stayed in the house. He saw the kids every other weekend, took them to the park, made pancakes on Sunday mornings like he used to. He tried to recreate the routines, but they felt hollow without Jenna there. Vanessa left the company 3 months after the divorce. They tried dating for a while, but it did not work. The foundation was built on something broken, and neither of them could ignore that. Chris still texts her sometimes. She rarely responds. The truth is, both of them lost something real. Jenna lost the man she thought she married. Chris lost the woman who used to laugh at his bad Spanish. They both held on to different versions of the same story, and neither version was complete. The receipts were real. The distance was real. The lies were real. So was the loneliness. So was the neglect. So was the breaking that happened slowly over years, in 1,000 small moments neither of them thought to fight against until it was too late. In the end, the receipts were real. The distance was real, and so were the lies. After hearing her side and his side, who do you believe is closer to the truth? Was this clear cheating, a gray area, or a marriage that was already dead long before the proof showed up? Tell me in the comments, her side, his side, or no one is clean. If you like long, messy marriage stories where the truth does not fit in a single version, subscribe, leave a like, and share this with someone who loves hard questions about love and betrayal.